The emergency signal crackled through space, weak and desperate. On the massive space station that served as the Galactic Council headquarters, hundreds of alien beings stopped their work to listen. The voice belonged to Zara, a Cathara female, and her words made everyone's blood run cold. "This is Colony 7 on Cathara Prime. We are under attack. Unknown ships appeared 3 days ago. They destroyed our defense platforms in minutes. Our people are being taken. Children, families, everyone. Please, someone help us. They're breaking down the shelter doors. I can hear them coming. Please, if anyone receives this message." The transmission ended with the sound of metal being torn apart and alien voices shouting in a language none of them recognized. Then nothing but static filled the air. Council Leader Vex, a tall blue-skinned Altarian, stood slowly from his chair. His forearms trembled as he reached for the communication controls. Around him, representatives from dozens of species sat in shocked silence. The Cathara were peaceful traders, known throughout the galaxy for their kindness and gentle nature. They had no enemies, no reason for anyone to attack them. "Send a scout ship immediately," Vex ordered. His voice carried the authority of someone who had led the council for 30 years. But today he sounded old and tired. "We need to know what happened." The Zephyrian representative, a floating jellyfish-like creature, pulsed with worried colors. "Sir, our nearest patrol is 4 days away from Cathara space. If whoever did this is still there, send them anyway," Vex said firmly. "We cannot abandon our allies." 3 days later, the scout ship returned with news that made the situation even worse. Captain Thol, a veteran Dakarian pilot, stood before the council with his scales pale from stress. His report was short and terrible. "The colony is destroyed," he said quietly. "All 7 settlements are burned. The orbital stations are gone. We found evidence of mass kidnapping. Thousands of Cathara have been taken alive. We also found these." He activated a holographic display that showed a symbol burned into the ground where the main city once stood. It was the mark of the Vorthak Empire, 3 curved lines that looked like claws. Every being in the council chamber recognized it immediately. The silence that followed was heavy with fear. The Vorthak Empire was known throughout the galaxy as slavers and conquerors. They took entire populations and forced them to work in their mines and factories. They showed no mercy to the weak and respected only strength. Worse yet, they were expanding their territory every year, growing stronger with each world they conquered. "How many ships did they use?" asked General Crix, the council's military leader. His insect-like features were tense with worry. "Our sensors detected at least 50 heavy cruisers," Captain Thol replied. "Maybe more. They hit fast and hard, then left with their prisoners. By the time we arrived, they were long gone." General Crix's mandibles clicked nervously. The council's combined fleet had maybe 80 ships total, scattered across a dozen sectors. Half of those were old patrol vessels that could barely fight pirates, let alone the Vorthak war machine. "We have to do something," insisted Councillor Yim, speaking for the peaceful healer caste. "Those people are suffering. Every day we wait, more Cathara die in Vorthak slave camps. What can we do?" General Crix spread his forearms wide. "The Vorthak chose their target carefully. Cathara Prime is on the rim, far from our main fleets. By the time we gather enough ships to mount a rescue, it will be too late." The debate went on for hours. Some wanted to negotiate with the Vorthak, offering them trade deals in exchange for the prisoners. Others suggested asking the Hegemony or the Trade Federation for help. But everyone knew the truth. No one in the galaxy was strong enough or willing enough to face the Vorthak Empire directly. Finally, Councillor Mira spoke up. She was young for a council member, her green skin marked with the wisdom tattoos of her people. "What about the Terrans?" The chamber fell silent. Even mentioning the humans was controversial. Earth was listed in the galactic database as a death world, a planet so dangerous that it had created the most violent species anyone had ever encountered. The humans had been contacted only 50 years ago, and most species preferred to pretend they didn't exist. "The humans are barbarians," General Crix said firmly. "They fight wars for sport. Their entire planet tried to kill them for millions of years, and somehow they survived by becoming even more deadly than their world. We cannot trust them." "But they are strong," Mira insisted. "Their ships are covered in weapons. Their soldiers train for combat from childhood. If anyone can face the Vorthak—" "And then what?" Vex interrupted. "Say the humans do rescue the Cathara. What's to stop them from enslaving everyone themselves? They might be worse than the Vorthak." The debate might have continued all night, but then a new message arrived. This one was from a Cathara survivor who had escaped the initial attack. Her words were burned into everyone's memory within seconds. The Vorthak are using our children in the deep mines. They work them until they die, then throw the bodies away like garbage. Please, someone help us. We are losing hope. The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then Vex stood up slowly, his decision made. Contact Earth. Send them everything we know about the Kythra situation. Tell them... He paused, struggling with the words. Tell them we are requesting assistance. 1 hour later, the message reached Earth. Admiral Sarah Chen received it in her office aboard the orbital command station above Earth's moon. She was a small woman by human standards, but her reputation was known even among the aliens who feared her species. She had led the human fleet through 3 major conflicts and never lost a single battle. Chen read the message twice, then called up the files on both the Kythera and the Vorthak. The Kythera were peaceful traders who had never harmed anyone. They sent medicine and food to disaster areas without asking for payment. Their children's laughter was considered one of the most beautiful sounds in the galaxy. The Vorthak were slavers who destroyed families and tortured innocents for profit. Chen's jaw tightened as she read about the conditions in Vorthak slave camps. She had seen evil before, but this was something special. These creatures didn't just kill their enemies, they made them suffer for years before allowing them to die. She activated the communication system that connected her to every human military base in the solar system. Her voice was calm and cold when she spoke, but everyone who heard it knew that death was coming for someone. This is Admiral Chen to all commands. Prep the entire Terran defense fleet, all of it. Every ship, every marine, every weapon we have. We have a job to do. Her aide, a young lieutenant, looked up from his console with wide eyes. Ma'am, the entire fleet? That's 200 ships. Are we going to war? Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Her eyes were as cold as the space between stars. No, Lieutenant. We're going to end one. Space tore open like a wound as the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 200 ships appeared in the Kythera system at once, their hulls black as night and bristling with weapons that had never been seen outside human space. At the center of the formation, Admiral Chen's flagship Retribution led the way like a sword pointed at the heart of evil. On the bridge of the Vorthak command ship, Bloodfang, General Thex watched the human fleet appear on his sensors. He was a massive creature, even by Vorthak standards, with thick armor plating and claws that could tear through steel. His species had conquered 17 different worlds, and he had personally led the attacks on 12 of them. What are those ships? He growled at his sensor operator, a smaller Vorthak whose hands shook as he read the displays. Unknown design, General, the operator replied nervously. They're not in any of our databases. But sir, there are so many of them. Thex laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. Numbers mean nothing without courage. These aliens probably sent their entire pathetic fleet to rescue a few worthless Kythera slaves. We'll crush them and take their ships as prizes. The Vorthak fleet was impressive by galactic standards. 50 heavy cruisers armed with plasma cannons and protected by energy shields that could stop most weapons. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. Thex had used this fleet to terrorize half the galaxy, and no one had ever stood against him successfully. But as the human ships moved closer, something felt different. The alien vessels didn't spread out in the defensive formations that Thex was used to seeing. Instead, they moved like a pack of predators, surrounding his fleet with smooth precision that spoke of years of practice. Incoming transmission, reported his communications officer. Put it on screen, Thex ordered. Let's see what these weaklings want. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main display. She was smaller than any Vorthak warrior, her skin pale and unmarked by battle scars. To Thex, she looked like a child playing with toys. When she spoke, her voice was calm and steady. General Thex of the Vorthak Empire, you have enslaved innocent people and destroyed peaceful worlds. Release all Kythera prisoners immediately and surrender your fleet. This is your only warning. Thex laughed so hard that his crew joined in, filling the bridge with the harsh sound of Vorthak amusement. Little human, you have no idea who you're threatening. We are the Vorthak Empire. We have conquered worlds while your species was still hiding in caves. Turn around and run home, or we'll add your bones to our trophy collection. Chen's expression didn't change. I see. In that case, all ships are cleared to engage. Show them no mercy. The transmission ended, and for a moment space was quiet. Then hell broke loose. The human ships moved like nothing Thex had ever seen before. They didn't charge forward in straight lines like most species. Instead, they flowed around his formation like water, hitting weak points and disappearing before his gunners could target them properly. Their weapons were unlike anything in galactic databases: railguns that fired metal slugs at incredible speeds, and missiles that seemed to think for themselves. "Return fire," Thex roared. "All ships focus on their flagship." But the human ships were already gone, having moved to new positions while his crews were still trying to aim. The Vorthak plasma cannons fired into empty space, while human weapons found their targets with deadly accuracy. The first Vorthak ship to die was the cruiser Bone Crusher. 3 human destroyers hit it from different angles at the same time, their railguns punching through armor that had never been penetrated before. The ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. "How did they do that?" Thex demanded. "Our shields should have stopped those weapons." His tactical officer was studying the displays with growing fear. "General, their weapons are kinetic, not energy-based. Our shields are designed to stop plasma and lasers. These metal projectiles pass right through." Before Thex could respond, another ship exploded. Then another. The humans were tearing his fleet apart piece by piece, and his crews couldn't even hit them back. It was like fighting ghosts that could bite. But the thing that truly terrified Thex was how the humans fought. When Vorthak ships tried to surrender by powering down their weapons, the humans ignored the gesture and destroyed them anyway. When escape pods launched from dying ships, human fighters hunted them down like insects. "They're not taking prisoners," his communications officer reported with a trembling voice. "Sir, they're killing everyone." For the first time in his life, General Thex felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Not just worry about losing a battle, but deep, bone-chilling terror. These humans fought like the universe itself had made them angry, and nothing would satisfy them except complete destruction. "All ships retreat," he ordered. "Jump to hyperspace immediately." But the humans had thought of that too. Their ships had surrounded his fleet completely, blocking all escape routes. Any Vorthak ship that tried to run found itself facing a wall of human weapons. The few that managed to charge their jump drives were destroyed before they could disappear. Admiral Chen's voice came over the general communication channel, reaching every surviving Vorthak ship at once. "You showed no mercy to children. You enslaved families and worked them to death in your mines. Did you think we would show you mercy in return?" Thex watched his fleet die around him. Ships that had conquered worlds were being destroyed by human vessels half their size. His most experienced crews, warriors who had never known defeat, were being hunted down like animals. "How are they so good at this?" he whispered. His tactical officer had found the answer in the database. His voice was hollow with shock as he read from his screen. "General, Earth is classified as a death world. Their entire planet tried to kill them for millions of years. They survived by becoming better predators than anything else on their world. They've been fighting wars since they learned to walk upright. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted only 3 hours. When it was over, 47 Vorthak ships had been destroyed. Only 3 survived, including Thex's flagship, and only because they had completely powered down their weapons and shields in total surrender." Admiral Chen's ship moved close to the Bloodfang, its weapons trained on the Vorthak bridge. When the transmission came through, Thex found himself looking at death wearing a human face. "Where are the Kythera prisoners?" Chen asked. Thex's pride warred with his survival instinct. "Pride lost. Grimhold system. Our fortress world. But you'll never take it. It has planetary shields and defense platforms. Thousands of ships guard it." Chen smiled, and Thex realized that he had just made a terrible mistake. The human admiral looked like she had just received exactly the news she was hoping for. "Thank you for the information," she said politely. "Your usefulness is now at an end." The transmission cut off. Seconds later, the Bloodfang joined the rest of the Vorthak fleet in death. As the human ships prepared to jump to their next target, Admiral Chen stood on her bridge and looked out at the wreckage floating in space. Her crew was already preparing for the next phase of the operation. They had work to do, and mercy was not part of the job description. "Set course for Grimhold," she ordered, "and send a message to Earth. Tell them to prepare the siege fleet. We're going to need bigger guns." The Grimhold system had been the heart of Vorthak power for 300 years. The massive fortress world sat in the center of the system like a metal cancer, its surface covered with weapon platforms, shield generators, and the towering spires of slave processing centers. Around it, A fleet of over 400 Vorthak warships waited in defensive positions that had never been broken. General Thex had been wrong about one thing. He was not dead. Admiral Chen had kept him alive for a specific reason, though he did not know what that reason was yet. He sat in a human prison cell aboard the Retribution, watching through the transparent wall as the human fleet prepared for what everyone believed would be an impossible battle. The cell was strange. It was clean and well lit, with a comfortable bed and regular meals. The humans even provided entertainment materials and books. For creatures that his people considered savage barbarians, they treated their prisoners far better than the Vorthak had ever treated theirs. When Admiral Chen came to visit him, Thex was surprised by how small she looked without her military uniform. She wore simple clothes and carried no weapons, yet somehow she seemed more dangerous than any Vorthak warrior he had ever faced. "General," she said politely, taking a seat across from him. "I wanted to discuss terms." Thex laughed bitterly. "Terms? Your fleet is about to be destroyed by superior numbers and better technology. Grimhold has never fallen. What terms could you possibly offer?" Chen pulled out a small device and activated it. A holographic display showed the Grimhold system in perfect detail, including every ship and defensive platform. "We've been watching your people for the past week. Our stealth ships are very good at staying hidden." The display zoomed in on specific locations around the planet. Thex's eyes widened as he saw what the humans had discovered: massive slave camps where thousands of Cathera were being worked to death in underground mines. The images showed children as young as 5 years old carrying heavy loads, their small bodies breaking under the strain. "Those camps hold approximately 50,000 Cathera prisoners," Chen continued in the same calm voice she might use to discuss the weather, "including 3,000 children under the age of 10. Our intelligence suggests they have maybe 2 weeks left before the working conditions kill them." Thex felt a cold knot form in his stomach. He was beginning to understand why the humans had kept him alive. "What do you want?" "Simple," Chen replied. "You're going to help us get those people out safely. In exchange, we'll allow the civilian population of Grimhold to evacuate before we destroy your military installations." "And if I refuse?" Chen's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes that made Thex want to hide under his bed like a frightened child. "Then we'll do this the hard way. The camps are underground, but our bunker buster weapons can reach them. We'll punch through to the slave levels and extract the prisoners by force. The shock waves will probably kill every civilian on the planet, but the Cathara will be free." The threat was delivered with such casual certainty that Thex had no doubt she meant every word. These humans would murder an entire world to save 50,000 prisoners, and they would sleep soundly afterward because they believed it was the right thing to do. "You're insane," he whispered. "We're thorough," Chen corrected. "Your people had a choice. You could have been merchants, explorers, scientists, artists. Instead, you chose to be slavers and murderers. Actions have consequences, General. Always." 3 days later, the human fleet moved into attack position around Grimhold. The sight should have been impossible. 200 human ships facing over 400 Vorthak defenders with no chance of reinforcement or retreat. Admiral Crest, the Vorthak fleet commander, was confident that the humans had made a fatal mistake. "They're outnumbered 2 to 1, he told his staff officers. "Their ships are smaller than ours. This will be a massacre." But when the battle began, it quickly became clear that the humans had not come to fight a traditional space battle. Instead of attacking the Vorthak fleet directly, they scattered across the system and began systematically destroying every piece of infrastructure they could find. Communication satellites died first, cut off from their control centers by precisely placed missiles. Then the orbital factories that supplied the fleet with spare parts exploded in brilliant fireballs. Supply convoys trying to reach the planet found themselves hunted by human ships that appeared out of nowhere, struck with devastating efficiency, and vanished before return fire could be organized. "They're not trying to fight us," Admiral Crest realized with growing horror. "They're trying to starve us." The siege of Grimhold lasted for 2 months. The humans surrounded the system completely, cutting off all trade and communication with the outside galaxy. Any ship that tried to leave was destroyed immediately. Any ship that tried to enter never made it past the outer system perimeter, but the worst part was the waiting. The human fleet hung in space like a collection of metal vultures, patient and implacable. They sent no threats, made no demands, offered no negotiations. They simply existed, a constant reminder that escape was impossible and death was coming. Admiral Crest tried everything. He sent his fastest ships to break through the human blockade, but they were intercepted and destroyed before they could jump to hyperspace. He attempted to negotiate, but the humans ignored his communications completely. He even tried launching a direct assault on the human fleet, but his ships were picked apart by long-range weapons before they could get close enough to fight back. Meanwhile, conditions on Grimhold grew worse every day. Food supplies ran low. Medicine ran out. The slave camps became even more hellish as desperate Vorthak overseers pushed their prisoners harder, trying to extract maximum work before the inevitable end. The breakthrough came when General Thex finally agreed to help the humans. Faced with the choice between cooperation and watching his entire species die slowly, he provided detailed information about the camp layouts and security systems. "The main slave processing center is here," he said, pointing to a spot on the holographic map. "It connects to all the underground mining tunnels. If you can take that facility, you can reach most of the prisoners." Admiral Chen studied the information carefully. "What about the guards?" 2,000 Vorthak soldiers, Thex replied, plus automated defense systems. "They'll fight to the death rather than let the slaves escape." "Then they'll die," Chen said simply. "Better prepare your civilian evacuation plans, General. You have 48 hours. The assault on Grimhold began at dawn local time, but instead of the massive orbital bombardment that everyone expected, the humans did something far more terrifying. They sent down small teams of soldiers who moved through the fortress city like ghosts, disabling defenses and eliminating guards with surgical precision. Admiral Crest watched from his command center as human marines appeared throughout the city. They seemed to know exactly where to go and what to target. His security cameras showed brief glimpses of armored figures moving through shadows. But whenever his troops responded to an alarm, they found only dead guards and disabled equipment. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. His intelligence officer had been studying the tactical displays with growing amazement. "Sir, they're not fighting like any military force we've ever encountered. They move in small units, strike specific targets, and disappear before we can respond. It's like they've studied our entire defensive system and found every weakness." What Admiral Crest didn't know was that the humans had indeed studied Vorthak tactics extensively. Earth's military academies had been analyzing alien warfare for 50 years, preparing for the day when humanity might need to fight in galactic conflicts. They had identified the fatal flaw in Vorthak's strategy. The aliens were used to fighting other species that valued honor and tradition over effectiveness. Humans had no such limitations. They fought to win using whatever methods worked best. If that meant crawling through sewage tunnels to plant explosives, they crawled. If it meant pretending to surrender and then attacking when the enemy got close, they pretended. If it meant using the enemy's own weapons against them, they did that too. The slave camps were liberated in 6 hours. Human medical teams rushed in to treat the worst cases while combat engineers rigged emergency shelters and food distribution points. The rescued Kithara were so weak that many could barely walk, but their eyes filled with hope when they saw their rescuers. "We thought no one would come," whispered an elderly Kithara female as a human medic treated her infected wounds. "We thought we would die in the darkness." "Not today," the medic replied gently. "You're safe now. We're taking you home." As the evacuation of prisoners continued, Admiral Chen sent one final message to Admiral Crest. The Vorthak commander found himself looking at a human face that showed no anger, no hatred, only cold determination. "Your civilian population has 6 hours to reach the evacuation ships we've provided," Chen said. "After that, we will reduce your military installations to rubble. Any ship that attempts to interfere with the prisoner evacuation will be destroyed immediately." Admiral Crest tried one last desperate gambit. "If you attack us, we'll kill the remaining prisoners." Chen's smile was colder than space itself. "General Thex already told us where every prisoner is located. We extracted them 3 hours ago. You have nothing left to bar." The evacuation ships lifted off from Grimhold in a steady stream, carrying Vorthak civilians who had never imagined they would need to flee their own homeworld. From his command center, Admiral Crest watched the exodus with mixed feelings. Part of him was grateful that the humans had kept their word about allowing non-combatants to escape. Part of him was ashamed that his mighty empire had been reduced to begging for mercy from aliens they had considered inferior. But mostly, He was terrified. The human fleet had moved into attack formation around Grimhold, their ships positioned with mathematical precision that spoke of detailed planning and absolute confidence. Each vessel bristled with weapons that the galaxy's databases still couldn't properly identify. Crest had spent sleepless weeks trying to understand how the humans fought so effectively, and he was beginning to realize the horrible truth. They weren't just better soldiers, they were better at war itself. "Sir," his communications officer reported nervously, "we're receiving a transmission from the human fleet. It's on all frequencies." "Put it through," Crest ordered, though he already knew what he would hear. Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen. Behind her, the bridge of her ship hummed with quiet efficiency as her crew prepared for the final phase of their mission. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Admiral Crest, the civilian evacuation is complete. All Kythera prisoners have been recovered and are receiving medical treatment. As of this moment, you have no shields left to hide behind." Crest tried to maintain his dignity. "Admiral Chen, surely we can reach some agreement. The Vorthak Empire has resources, technology, trade agreements that could benefit both our species." Chen's expression didn't change. "General Thex made similar offers. I told him the same thing I'm telling you now. You enslaved children. You worked innocent beings to death for profit. You destroyed families and called it conquest. There is no agreement possible between us. Then what do you want?" Crest demanded. "Justice," Chen replied simply. "Complete and unconditional surrender of all military forces. Dismantling of the Vorthak war machine. Reparations to every species you've harmed. And trials for every officer who participated in slave operations." Crest laughed bitterly. "And if I refuse?" Chen gestured to something off-screen, and the display split to show a view of space around Grimhold. The human fleet had spread out in a formation that encompassed the entire planet, their weapons all trained on military targets. But what made Crest's blood freeze was the casual way Admiral Chen delivered her next words. "Then we demonstrate why Earth is classified as a death world, and why the Galactic Council was wise to fear us." The ultimatum expired 1 hour later. Crest had spent those 60 minutes trying desperately to contact other Vorthak fleets, hoping for rescue or reinforcement. But the human blockade was perfect. No signals got through, no ships could approach. He was alone with 400 warships against an enemy that had already proven themselves superior in every way that mattered. When the human attack began, it wasn't the massive bombardment that Crest expected. Instead, it was something far more terrifying. A systematic dismantling of everything the Vorthak Empire represented. The humans didn't target population centers or civilian infrastructure. They went after the weapons factories, the military academies, the shipyards where Vorthak fleets were built. Each strike was precise, calculated to cause maximum damage to military capability while avoiding unnecessary casualties. But the speed and coordination of the assault was inhuman. Human ships moved through the Vorthak defensive grid like they had memorized every weapons placement and shield generator. They knew exactly which targets to hit first to create cascading failures throughout the entire defensive network. "How do they know our systems so well?" Crest shouted over the alarm sirens. His tactical officer was studying sensor readings with growing amazement. "Sir, I think they've been planning this for weeks. Every attack is hitting exactly the right spot to cause maximum system failure. It's like they have our complete technical specifications." What the Vorthak didn't realize was that humans had indeed studied their technology extensively. Earth's intelligence services had been gathering information about potential threats for decades, preparing for conflicts that might never come. When the call came to rescue the Kythera, human strategists already knew exactly how to defeat Vorthak forces most efficiently. The orbital defense platforms died first, their massive guns silenced by precisely placed explosives that human infiltration teams had planted during the siege. The planetary shield generators followed, overwhelmed by coordinated attacks that struck all the power distribution nodes simultaneously. Then came the space battle itself, and Admiral Crest learned the difference between fighting for conquest and fighting for survival. The Vorthak fleet was powerful and well-equipped, but they had grown lazy during centuries of easy victories over weaker species. Their tactics were straightforward and brutal. Advance in formation, overwhelm the enemy with superior firepower, accept surrender or destroy everything that moved. The humans fought like the universe itself had trained them for this moment. They used the asteroid field on the system's edge as cover, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. They coordinated their attacks with split-second timing that suggested weeks of practice. Most importantly, they fought with the intensity that spoke of deep personal anger. They're not just defeating us, Crest realized as he watched another squadron of his ships explode under human fire. They're punishing us. His fear was justified. The human Marines who had liberated the slave camps had seen things that would haunt them forever. Children who had been worked until their small bodies broke. Families torn apart and forced to watch each other suffer. Elderly Cathara who had died alone in the darkness, calling for loved ones who couldn't answer. Those images had been shared with every human ship in the fleet. Every sailor, every pilot, every gunner knew exactly what they were fighting against. They weren't just soldiers following orders. They were Avengers striking back at evil itself. The Vorthak fleet began to break apart under the sustained assault. Ships that had conquered worlds were destroyed by human vessels half their size. Experienced captains who had never known defeat found themselves outmaneuvered by an enemy that seemed to anticipate their every move. Admiral Crest watched his command structure collapse around him. Communications were jammed, supply lines were cut, and his most experienced officers were either dead or trapped on burning ships. The humans had reduced his mighty fleet to scattered fragments in less than 6 hours. "Sir," his sensor operator reported with a trembling voice, "long-range scanners are detecting massive reinforcements approaching the system." For a moment, Crest felt hope. Perhaps other Vorthak fleets had broken through the human blockade. Perhaps rescue was coming after all. Then the new ships dropped out of hyperspace and hope died completely. It wasn't a Vorthak fleet. It was another human formation, even larger than the first. These ships were different, bigger, more heavily armed, designed for siege warfare rather than fleet actions. At their head was a massive vessel that dwarfed everything else in the system. "What is that ship?" Crest whispered. His intelligence officer checked the databases frantically. "It's not in any of our records, sir. But the energy signatures suggest—" "Sir, I think it's a planet killer." Admiral Chen's face appeared on the main screen again, but this time she wasn't alone. Standing beside her was an older human with the insignia of a fleet admiral. His presence seemed to fill the screen with quiet authority. "Admiral Crest," the older human said. "I am Fleet Admiral Harrison, commander of the Terran Strategic Forces. Admiral Chen has briefed me on your people's crimes. I'm here to ensure that justice is served completely." Crest found his voice. "What do you want?" "The unconditional surrender of all remaining Vorthak military forces," Harrison replied. "Not just here, but everywhere. Every ship, every base, every weapon. Your empire ends today." "Impossible," Crest protested. "We have fleets in dozens of systems, millions of soldiers. You can't possibly—" "Admiral," Harrison interrupted calmly. "You seem to misunderstand the situation. We're not asking for your surrender. We're informing you that your empire is finished. The only question remaining is whether it ends with your cooperation or over your dead bodies." As if to emphasize his point, the massive planet-killer ship began charging its main weapon. The energy buildup was visible to every sensor in the system, a growing light that promised complete annihilation. "You have 10 minutes to broadcast a surrender order to all Vorthak forces," Harrison continued. "After that, we begin systematic elimination of every military target in Vorthak space. We have the locations of your bases, your fleets, your command structures. We will hunt down every ship and destroy every installation until your capacity for harming innocents is completely eliminated." Crest stared at the screen, realizing that he was looking at something far worse than defeat. This wasn't conquest, it was extinction. The humans weren't trying to rule the Vorthak Empire. They were trying to erase it from existence. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Why go this